Welcome back, guys, to the review and discussion for UnOrdinary, episode 310. Episode overall is pretty good, all things considered. Once again, it's just a talking episode, just to set up for everything. But we do get what I said would probably happen, which you all doubted me. Sera and John are reunited in this episode. And we do also get a confirmation on timeline. I know I talked about that briefly, that like we do know how long it's been and everything. But yeah, so John is teleported with Caden to Doc's apartment, and he sees Sera relaxing on the couch. They briefly chat for a bit before Doc yells at John for having bad manners. Yeah, that actually happens. Doc just basically yells at John, like, what, you're not going to say hi? And also get your shoes off, like, leave them at the door. So, yeah, basically there's that. Anyway, Doc does take his blood samples from John, and he mentions to John that Remy and Blake's amplifiers have a lot of, the ones that they brought, had a lot of similarities to John's last blood sample, and he wants to try and replicate the effects of the amplifiers. John then also mentions to Doc that he hasn't lost his ability since using the recovery device. And then Sera comments that it's been weeks since that happened, and of course hers is gone. So, yeah, this was a really interesting bit. Doc then also says that he would have figured John would have some resistance, but this is much better than he could have asked for. He then asked John to give him a rundown of his ability. And again, we know a little bit about John's ability, but we get a little bit more with how it works. Specifically, that he does indeed increase aura flow throughout his channels, thus resulting throughout his aura channels, which results in the stronger abilities. Though the amplification is taxing, because he has to use twice as much aura. So we get an exact number of how much aura he does use than the person who normally uses the ability. So that's really interesting. We did already know before, because John has mentioned it before, that amplifying an ability takes a toll on him, especially when he was an elite tier, which he is right now. So, and he also stores aura whenever possible. Sera then gives us a bit of a talk on how the high tiers themselves work. She thinks this herself, but it's clearly for us, the audience. Being that all high tiers have a vast aura supply that was built up over a lifetime. And John has only had his for a few years. But we also learned that increasing this aura output and everything, or this aura like networking and everything, is part of the mastery process. But it's what's needed in order to be able to use their abilities without exhausting themselves. And she then puts together that this is why only high tiers can use the converter, because they need that vast amount of aura to be able to use them. And she then confirms to herself that John's ability and utility of it perfectly matches what she read about Jane. And she then asks to speak with John privately about the matter. Now, in another room, Sera talks to John and tells him that, without a doubt, Jane has to be his mother, since the authorities have a near exact copy of his ability. And John tells her that he doesn't care about his mom, because he doesn't know her. She's just a stranger to him. And Sera, in a way, says that she understands how he feels a bit, because she also doesn't really care what happens to her mom, because of how she was treated growing up. So if something were to happen to Nerissa, she isn't sure how she'd feel. So, once again, it's kind of interesting, because once again, there's a similarity between the two main characters in that they both are indifferent when it comes to their mother. They're both John's is from the perspective of I don't know my mom. She didn't raise me. I don't know her. She's a stranger, so I really don't care what happens to her. And that makes sense. I can totally understand. It's very sad, and I was kind of hoping John would have a bit of a reaction, but I actually did comment before. It does make sense. I did comment before, and in a way, I kind of did get what I wanted, because I did say John shouldn't really care about his mom because he doesn't know her. Now, I did also say I would prefer if he did care about his mom, he would say, wait, my mom's a prisoner at the with the authorities. I want to bust her out then. Now, that could still happen if William tells John what the whole situation with his mother is. So, yeah. Please don't kill William in order to do that. But Sera's comes from the point of just how Nerissa has treated her. Sera just doesn't care what happens to her mom now. And this is the first time that John and Sera have really talked about this situation, and it's really interesting because while they both share the same similarity, again, the same level of love with their mothers, the same kind of love, or the same kind of feelings towards their mother of being indifferent to them, it's for different reasons. And it's a little sad and depressing, honestly, because what's so weird about the situation to where both John and Sera don't care about their mom, it's for completely different reasons on the sides of the mothers. Jane, who undoubtedly loved John and did whatever it took to protect him as a baby, was taken away purely for the chance that John and William would be protected from the authorities. Jane made the ultimate sacrifice and said, if you leave my family alone, I'll do whatever you want. Jane did it out of love. With Nerissa, however, she treated both Sera and Layla horribly and stained their lives ever with abuse, to the point that Layla ran away, and to the point that Sera said, you can't hurt me anymore because I'm stronger than you. Nerissa trained Sera to the point where Sera vastly overpowers her mother, and now Nerissa can probably never lay a hand on, well, in the moment she could, but with her full power, Layla will never be able to hurt Sera. Nerissa shouldn't be able to lay a hand on Sera. We could still see something now. Maybe Sera did stand up to her mom once. Who knows if she really could do it again, though. But yeah, both of these parents have left children who unfortunately don't have love or care for them. And it's very sad and tragic. This does also make me very curious about Sera and Layla's dad, what he could be like, because William is the best dad we've seen in the series, and I think the only dad now that I think about it, but he's just the perfect dad. He does anything he can for his son. And I mentioned in the reaction, I do wonder, Layla and Sera's scars always seem to come from Nerissa. They only ever talk about her. So I do wonder if their dad is kind of just dismissive of the whole thing, if he's just not involved, if he just doesn't care what his wife puts their kids through. So I'm going to go with that Nerissa's husband may not be abusive like her, but he may just be like, she can do what she wants. I don't care. Whatever. So, yeah, that'd also be a huge problem. Anyway, they then talk about the situation at Wellston, and John tells her that Remy and Blyke did make it back, but he's not sure how long they'll stay safe, since the authorities do know that the both of them and Ison have been well, actually, I don't think he mentioned Ison, but anyway, he mentions that the authority knows that they've been interfering with Ember, and yeah, and Arlo can't help them because he needs big promotions before he can get any power and influence on the situation. Sera then realizing at the thought of she then remembers the television broadcast of the authorities basically announcing Specter as a terrorist organization. And she begins to tell John that she's not sure if she'll be around for much longer, because her and Layla are going to have to leave soon. John retaliates in anger, saying that it's not fair because none of this was her fault. And while Sera did agree to be a part of Specter, she's right. This stuff really isn't her fault, unfortunately. It is Specter who dragged her into these situations, just like they've dragged a lot of high tiers into this situation. And she begins to think of who else could stand up to Orin, since they can't. Layla can't. Orin Orin is the strongest executive, and neither Neil or Miranda can stand up to him. But she ultimately realizes something can stand up to Orin, something that could also get Arlo a promotion, and she rushes off to talk to Caden. Now, I think it's fairly obvious that Sera is going to try and sneak the authorities onto Orin. She's going to try and get him imprisoned, most likely. Now, I brought up in the reaction, this could be a very, very good or a very bad idea. It could work out, and Orin could get removed or arrested and removed from Specter, as an executive. However, it could end up poorly because Orin could manipulate his way into the authorities and give them a different deal and basically say like, hey, if you let me go, I'll help you take down the whole organization. Because Sera's only goal is to take down Orin. So she is most likely going to tell Arlo, hey, here's the information on Specter. Use this to get your promotions. Use this so you can help out Blake, Remy, and Ison. So, yeah, it is tricky. It's very tricky. Now, real quick, speculation on the high tiers, what Sera mentioned earlier about them having vast amounts of aura. Now, I was thinking about this as I was reading through again, and I think I figured out why high tiers on the recovery device can overexert themselves so easily like Sera did. Sera specifically mentions that they increase their aura flow and their aura supply over a lifetime, and it's this that allows them to use their ability without overexertion, without exhausting themselves. So I'm wondering, if a high tier on the recovery device overexerts themselves, are they passing out and going unconscious because their aura channels were shut off and they no longer have access to the vast amount of aura that they regularly have? Just a quick thought I had while reading through this episode. I think that is most likely the case. Now, before we end off, one thing I want to bring up. Shoutouts to Solo Hunter for this discovery. Solo believes that he has figured out the identity of yet another Ember agent. That agent being none other than Pyre, one of the unnamed agents, but what we know is the agent with blue hair. Give me just a sec while I pull this up. So, the Ember agents that we know about were Brims, Fury, Vulcan, Pyre, Lumens, and Brims, Vulcan, Fury, Pyre, Lumens, Brims, Vulcan, Pyre. Oh, it was just 5. I thought it was 6. Anyway. So, Solo believes that he has figured out the identity of Pyre, the woman with blue hair. The executive with a cyanish hair. Now, shoutouts to Solo for this discovery and putting it in the Discord. Pyre could be none other than the woman from episode 94 who reported Ray's death to Remy, the investigator who came to deliver the news. She's got hair. Pyre's hair seems to be a bit tied back and everything. We know that is typically the case with the female operatives. Valerie keeps hers in a bun usually. And we don't know much about Fury, but she does have it in a ponytail here. But the woman does have that same color hair. And she also has a similar looking jacket to the ones that the operatives wear. So, another Ember agent discovered? Realized? Who knows? We still don't know the full exact identity of Fury. We do know that her name is Farah, but we haven't seen her face yet. And we know nothing about Lumen. But do we know any do we know any authority members with an L name? Also, I don't know. Pyre's name may be something like Pyrrha or something. Who knows? But Solo, thanks for the meal. You always be cooking, my guy. Anyway, so overall, I would give this episode, it's another talking episode. It is pretty good. I would honestly give it a level 7.2. I am getting a little tired of the talking episodes, honestly. I get it. Not everything, you guys know that I always understand. Not everything has to be excited. I am starting to get a little bored though. Not like I'm gonna stop reading or anything, but I'm just like, okay, this was cool. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought down below. Friendly reminder, I won't be here tomorrow, unfortunately, or today for the reaction. So I will see you guys back on the 12th. On the 12th of July, where I think Season 2's finale may take place with episode 313. So, with that being said, guys, thank you all so much for watching. And as always, see you, Space Cowboy.